The movie opens with a glimpse into a Bulgarian prison, where we are introduced to Bohemy, a convict serving time for a serious crime, namely murder. Having spent 15 years behind bars, Bohemy had grown accustomed to prison life, viewing it as a second home. Within the prison walls, he encountered Captain Vekilsky, a cruel and strict prison guard who took pleasure in being harsh with inmates, even in situations where they were not truly at fault. Despite Vekilsky's oppressive demeanor, Bohemy, a seasoned and dependable prisoner, remained unfazed. His seniority and skill in repairing machinery made him resilient to Vekilsky's attempts to disturb his peace. Before his incarceration, Bohemy displayed exceptional proficiency with machines, adeptly handling various types. Consequently, rather than engaging in menial tasks like cleaning, Bohemy found himself employed in the prison factory. His prowess with machines led to a camaraderie with Radoev, the head of the prison. One day, Radoev summoned Bohemy to his office and proposed a special task, manufacturing valves for hydroponic systems. Radoev explained that each Bulgarian prison needed a self-sustaining venture to contribute to government savings. Moreover, he hinted that by successfully producing a substantial quantity of these valves, Bohemy might earn an early release, granting him the opportunity to reunite with his son. Intrigued by the prospect, Bohemy contemplated seeking assistance from fellow inmates to meet the production demands. Among them was Angelov, towering over 2 meters tall and notorious for his chilling reputation as a ruthless killer. However, his intimidating demeanor, Angelov harbored a soft spot for animals, including the prison's cockroaches. Without hesitation, Angelov accepted Bohemy's invitation, as Bohemy was his sole companion in the confines of the prison. The following day, Bohemy assembled his team in a vehicle, making their way to the machine factory. The team comprised individuals skilled in repairing various items, such as lathes, motorbikes, and other machinery. However, one member, Igor, proved challenging to manage. Igor defied orders from Vekilsky, leading to Vekilsky's anger and subsequent harm to Igor. Upon arriving at the factory, Vekilsky instructed Bohemy and his team to undertake the task assigned by Radoev. As they worked, Vekilsky issued instructions to a newcomer named Vladimir, cautioning him against getting involved with the prisoners due to their potential danger. Specifically, he warned Vladimir to be wary of Igor, who was incarcerated for harming an elderly woman. During a break, Igor instigated trouble again, nearly engaging in a fight with another inmate. Rather than intervening, Bohemy found himself challenged to a fight by Igor. Fortunately, Vekilsky intervened before the situation escalated. Shortly afterward, Vladimir shared some candy to celebrate the birth of his first child. While the other prisoners took only one piece, Igor seized all the candy for himself. Following the candy distribution, Vladimir received further instructions from Vekilsky. This time, Vekilsky presented Vladimir with a pistol and a key, explaining that the pistol was meant for emergencies, recognizing that there might be instances where firearms were necessary to control unruly prisoners. As the day progressed and they neared completion of their tasks, Angelov halted the machine he was operating, discovering a pigeon trapped within it. Unwilling to proceed without freeing the bird, Angelov faced the challenge of disassembling the complex machine. However, Vekilsky urged Angelov to resume work, emphasizing the urgency. Yet despite the pressure, Angelov stood firm in his refusal. Frustrated, Vekilsky instructed Vladimir to restart the machine. Suddenly, Angelov seized Vladimir, using a chain to strangle him. Threatening harm to Vladimir, Angelov made it clear that he would not be coerced into resuming work. Seizing the opportunity, Igor sought revenge against Vekilsky. He attacked the prison guard, relentlessly beating him until he lost consciousness, and then securely bound him with chains. Upon regaining consciousness, Vekilsky issued a warning that security officers would arrive soon, predicting severe consequences for Igor and the looming threat of the death penalty, coupled with torture, for Bohemy and the other prisoners. This unsettling news fueled discontent among the inmates, leading to blame being placed on Igor and Angelov for their impulsive actions. Taking charge as their leader, Bohemy intervened to pacify the escalating tension. He proposed 2 options: either eliminate Vekilsky and Vladimir, or seek reconciliation with them. Recognizing the futility of further violence and the prospect of remaining imprisoned, the prisoners opted for peace. Despite the collective decision, Igor remained keen on inflicting harm, while Angelov, driven by concern for the fate of the dove, was prepared to harm Vladimir to rescue the bird. The reason behind Angelov's intense commitment to the bird's well-being remained unknown. In a moment of provocation, Vekilsky taunted Angelov, further fueling his anger. During that moment, Angelov came dangerously close to ending Vekilsky with his formidable hands, but timely intervention from fellow prisoners prevented a tragedy. Unfortunately, the situation escalated when two guards, alarmed by Vekilsky's screams and the locked factory door, grew suspicious. One guard promptly reported the incident to Radoev. In response, a prisoner attempted to negotiate with the warden outside the factory. Tragically, a misstep by the guard resulted in a gunshot, accidentally killing the negotiating prisoner. Startled by the gunshot, Bohemy rushed outside only to discover the lifeless body of a friend. Shortly thereafter, Radoev arrived at the scene, however being on vacation. The government swiftly dispatched troops under the command of Colonel Kazarev, a stern military figure unafraid to employ force. Radoev, territorial about the prison, disapproved of Kazarev's presence, considering it his domain rather than subject to army or police authority. However, Kazarev couldn't withdraw, compelled by orders from higher authorities. Following a heated argument, the decision was reached to contact the Ministry of Defense. Radoev requested time to negotiate with the prisoners, emphasizing their value as skilled individuals crucial to machinery work. If diplomatic efforts failed, Kazarev could intervene and handle the situation his way. The Ministry of Defense approved this plan. Meanwhile, within the factory, Bohemy and the others found themselves running out of viable solutions. The intricate problem had arisen due to a bird, leading to the tragic death of their comrade. Bohemy proposed the idea of surrendering collectively to avoid further harm. However, Angelov, driven by the fate of the dove, issued a threat, vowing to harm Vladimir if Bohemy surrendered before successfully rescuing the bird. Bohemy eventually abandoned his initial plan, driven by the desire to prevent further casualties. He entered negotiations with Angelov, proposing a collaboration to free the trapped bird from the machine. The agreement, however, included the condition that they would subsequently surrender. When Igor resisted Bohemy's proposal and launched an attack, Angelov swiftly intervened, intimidating Igor into offering an apology. In brief, Angelov attempted to manually open a machine's valve and succeeded to some extent. Bohemy and the other prisoners assisted in accessing another part of the machine, yet they faced a challenge as a special tool was required, which they did not possess. In response, Vekilsky suggested the alternative of transporting the machine to a repair shop to rescue the trapped bird. In their quest, Bohemy and their fellow prisoners sought an alternative solution. Meanwhile, Angelov experienced a haunting dream where bird enthusiasts buried him alive. Despite the passage of time, their efforts to free the trapped bird proved futile. Bohemy, desperate for a breakthrough, approached Vladimir for assistance, issuing a warning that refusal would result in a fate similar to Vekilsky's. During this period, Kazarev delved into files about Bohemy and the other prisoners, analyzing their strengths and weaknesses. He conveyed to Radoev that if any guards were harmed, the prisoners would need to be eliminated. Responding to this, Radoev requested Kazarev's patience, expressing confidence that Bohemy wouldn't pose a threat to the warden. On a different note, one of the prisoners shared a story with Vladimir, recounting Angelov's past as a kind and thrifty individual, revealing a transformation triggered by deep family strife. Angelov's response was violent, resulting in the brutal harm of his brothers and father in a gruesome manner. Since that fateful day, he gained a reputation as one of Bulgaria's most feared killers. Shortly thereafter, Radoev arrived at the factory and sought a conversation with Bohemy. Attempting to persuade him to surrender, Radoev promised leniency in punishment. However, Vekilsky abruptly accused Bohemy and the other prisoners of orchestrating a plan to escape. Fortunately, Radoev dismissed Vekilsky's claims, placing trust in Bohemy, whom he had known in prison. Radoev granted them 1 hour to free the pigeon and extended an offer of parole to Bohemy if he released one of the prison guards. This decision stirred discontent among the other prisoners, as only Bohemy was given a chance at parole. Meanwhile, Igor harbored suspicions that Radoev was attempting to exploit Bohemy. Even though this, Bohemy opted not to escalate the situation and proceeded to untie Vekilsky, preparing to release him. Vladimir remained in custody as collateral. Unexpectedly, when Bohemy presented Vekilsky, Kazarev opened fire, but both survived. Radoev confronted Kazarev for breaking their agreement, leading to a standoff. Radoev's superior intervened, assuming control. Meanwhile, Bohemy and the prisoners continued efforts to rescue pigeons. In this pivotal moment, they understood Angelov's goal, mirroring their desire for freedom. Even Igor, moved by the realization, chose to assist. The situation unfolded as a tense battle between prisoners and external forces seeking to control their fate. They began sharing their deepest desires, fully aware that they needed to act swiftly before Kazarev intervened and thwarted their plans. While the other prisoners harbored a collective desire to escape from prison, Angelov's sole wish was to liberate the dove. Sensing an opportunity, Bohemy approached Vekilsky, requesting the key to the warehouse to procure the tools necessary for opening the machine. However, Vekilsky attempted to provoke Bohemy by insinuating that Kozyrev and his specialized troops were en route to eliminate them. Remarkably, it was Kozyrev who had framed and incarcerated Bohemy initially. Undeterred by Vekilsky's attempts at provocation, Bohemy located a tool to open the machine. Bohemy's strategy involved using fire to open the engine valves, while other prisoners readied their tools. Amid preparations, Bohemy questioned Angelov about his desire for change. Angelov, expressing a longing to regain humanity lost in prison, moved Bohemy to tears. Outside, Kazarev readied troops for a forceful entry, while Vekilsky, burdened by his pain, chose to aid the prisoners. Initiating a fire successfully, he opened the machine without harming the pigeon. As Angelov tended to the bird's wings, Vekilsky abruptly drew his gun, ordering prisoners to lie down. In spite of compliance, Angelov calmly continued caring for the bird. However, when Vekilsky attempted to shoot the bird, Angelov lost control and strangled Vekilsky to death. Following this, Angelov and the other prisoners united in caring for his pigeons. However, their respite was short-lived as Kazarev and his troops arrived, compelling the prisoners to lie down. Defying Kazarev's orders, Angelov chose to stand up and release his pigeons. This act of disobedience led Kazarev to deem Angelov a threat, prompting him to order his troops to eliminate him on the spot. As Angelov met his demise, Bohemy, Igor, and the remaining prisoners felt a mix of relief and profound emotion, recognizing that Angelov had ultimately set the bird free. Moreover, in his death, Angelov had achieved his lifelong goal of freedom from prison. At the brink of further harm, Kazarev prepared to eliminate the prisoners, but Vladimir intervened with a gun, compelling Kazarev to spare Bohemy and the others. Ultimately, Vladimir testified in court, asserting that Bohemy and the others did not warrant the death penalty, sparing them from further punishment. The film concludes with a poignant lesson. Sometimes it takes an individual with a formidable reputation, yet a deep love for birds, to impart the idea that freedom is a cause worth fighting for. This realization is exemplified even in the act of confronting and overcoming a heartless prison guard whose heart is smaller than a pigeon's feather.